My wife hit a $10 million jackpot, filed for divorce, and thought she could discard me like garbage until I pulled out the prenup her parents insisted I sign before we got married. You never imagine it'll happen to you. You hear tales of lottery winners going wild, betraying their loved ones, and tossing aside everything for a taste of extravagance. But Emily, my wife of 6 years, didn't seem like that. Or so I thought. I'm Tom, 36, and for most of our marriage, Emily and I led a modest, cozy life. Not lavish, but content, or so I believed. I worked in construction design while Emily flitted between jobs, never quite finding her calling. We weren't wealthy, but we weren't scraping by either. Then one day, Emily won the lottery, $10 million, a single scratch-off ticket from a corner store. In an instant, our world flipped upside down. At first, I was over the moon. We popped open a bottle of wine at home, fantasizing about what we could do with the cash. I pictured paying off our home loan, taking trips abroad together, and securing our future. Emily, she had other ideas. Within days, she started acting strange. It began with small things. She stopped sharing her thoughts with me. She began hanging out more, meeting people I'd never heard of. Then came the extravagant purchases, designer handbags, luxury spa days, glittering jewelry. None of this was her usual style. She grew distant, cold. She stopped saying, "I love you," before bed. She barely glanced at me during conversations. If I mentioned the lottery winnings, she waved me off, saying, "Let's just live a little, Tom. No need to worry about it." I figured it was just the thrill of sudden wealth. I told myself she'd settle down soon. Then, a month after her win, she dropped a bombshell. She came home late one night, tossed her bag on the counter, and sat across from me at the dining table. She didn't look nervous, just annoyed, like she was in a hurry. "We need to talk," she said, sliding a thick stack of papers toward me. I picked them up and flipped through them. Divorce papers. My throat tightened. "Emily, what is this?" she sighed, like I was being difficult. "Tom, this is for the best. You'll be okay. I had the lawyers include a small payout for you." A small payout. Like she was doing me a favor, tossing me pocket change while she walked away with millions. I gritted my teeth. "Emily, we've been together nearly a decade. You don't just throw that away," she smirked. "Come on, Tom. Things have changed." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Things only changed when you won the lottery." She didn't argue, she just shrugged and stood up. "I don't want this to get messy. I'm being generous. Sign the papers, take the money, and move on. This is what I want." She said it like it was already settled, like she expected me to roll over and accept it. Emily thought she had it all figured out. She thought she could cast me aside and sail off into her new life. What she didn't realize was that she'd just made the biggest misstep of her life. I sat there, clutching the divorce papers so tightly my hands shook. Emily had already checked out, mentally, emotionally, financially. She thought I'd just sign and walk away with her scraps. I wasn't a spiteful guy, but her arrogance lit a fire in me. After almost 10 years together, she was treating me like I was nothing. I took a deep breath, keeping my voice steady. "Emily, is there someone else?" She laughed, actually laughed. "Oh, Tom, don't be so dramatic. This isn't about another guy." That wasn't a denial. I pressed my lips together. "You win 10 million and suddenly I'm not enough," she sighed, rolling her eyes. "It's not about that. I just want something new. I'm done with this ordinary life." I nearly choked. Ordinary. The life we'd built together was ordinary now. "I don't understand," I said, shaking my head. "We had dreams, Emily, a house, travel." She cut me off. "I'm still doing those things, just not with you." I stared at her, searching for any trace of the woman I married. But she was gone. This wasn't about drifting apart. She'd been planning this since the moment she won. She'd already hired lawyers, moved money into new accounts, and decided I was expendable. That's when something in me shifted. I wasn't going to beg or grovel, but I wasn't going to let her steamroll me either. So I did something she didn't expect. I smiled. I pushed the papers back across the table. "You know what, Emily? You're right." She blinked, caught off guard by how easily I seemed to agree. "So you'll sign?" I nodded. "Sure. But I need a little time to have my lawyer review it, just to make sure it's fair." Her lips tightened, but she didn't push back. She thought she'd already won. "Fine, just don't drag this out, okay?" "Don't worry," I said, grabbing my jacket. "This won't take long." What Emily didn't know was that while she'd been scheming her grand exit, she'd overlooked one critical detail: the prenup. The next morning, I met with my lawyer, Sarah, a no-nonsense woman who didn't tolerate games. She skimmed Emily's divorce papers, raising an eyebrow. "She's offering you $50,000, I chuckled. "Yeah, out of 10 million. Sarah leaned back, tapping the papers on her desk. "She's trying to cut you out completely. No alimony, no assets, nothing." I figured, I muttered. But here's the thing, I signed a prenup before we got married. Sarah's eyes lit up. Do you have it? Not on me, but Emily's dad had it drafted. His lawyers should have it. Sarah grinned. Let's get a copy. Within a day, Sarah had the prenup in hand, and when she called me back to her office, her smile told me something was up. Tom, she said, barely hiding her excitement, I don't think Emily ever read this thing before she had you sign it. I frowned, taking the document. What do you mean? Sarah pointed to a specific clause. This prenup was designed to protect her. Her father's lawyers wrote it to ensure that if you ever earned more than Emily and you split, she'd get half your assets. I nodded. Yeah, I got that. But here's the kicker, Sarah said, flipping a page. It works both ways. I stared at her, the realization dawning. Emily had won $10 million. We were still married. And because of the prenup her parents forced me to sign, I was entitled to half of it, $5 million. I let out a low whistle. Wow, Sarah grinned. Yeah, wow. Emily had spent weeks plotting to ditch me, oblivious to the fact that she'd walked right into her own trap. And the best part, she had no clue I knew. I sat in Sarah's office, letting it sink in. Emily thought she could outsmart me, discard me, and keep her millions. But the irony was almost poetic. She and her parents had set this up to screw me over years ago, and now it was backfiring on her. I remembered the day I signed it. Emily and I had been engaged for a few months when her parents brought it up. We were at their oversized, pretentious mansion, a house more for show than for living. Her father, Charles, sat across from me, radiating his usual smug superiority. He was the type who judged people by their bank accounts, and to him I was nobody. Tom, he said, swirling his scotch, I hope you understand we need to be careful about Emily's future. Emily squirmed beside me, gripping my hand under the table. Dad, she started, but he raised a hand. This isn't personal. It absolutely was. It's just that Emily comes from a family with significant wealth, and we need to protect her. Her mother, Margaret, nodded stiffly, barely glancing at me. We've had a prenup prepared, she said. A standard precaution. I looked at Emily, waiting for her to push back, but she just stared at the table. Tom, it's just to make my parents happy, she whispered. It doesn't mean anything. I exhaled slowly. So what's in it? Charles gave a predatory smile. It ensures that if you and Emily divorce, the higher earner splits their assets 50-50. I frowned. So if Emily earns more, I get half? He laughed. That's not likely, is it? That's when I saw it for what it was. They assumed I'd be the breadwinner, building wealth over time that they wanted Emily to claim if she ever left me. It wasn't about protecting her. It was about making sure I didn't get more than they thought I deserved. I should have fought it. I should have walked away, but Emily's hand squeezed mine, her eyes begging. Please, Tom, she whispered. It's nothing. We'll never divorce. So like a fool in love, I signed. Back in Sarah's office, I stared at the prenup. Sarah tapped it. This is airtight. She can't escape it. She owes you half of anything earned during the marriage, and that lottery money. It counts, I laughed. Emily and her parents had laid this trap for me, and now it was snapping shut on her instead. Okay, I said, leaning forward. Let's play this carefully. Sarah grinned. What's the plan? For the next week, I played my part. Emily, thinking she'd won, was in full victory mode. She strutted around town like she was already free, posting photos with her new elite friends at fancy restaurants, showing off her luxury purchases. She didn't even hide that she was seeing someone else, a slick finance guy named Ethan.